Yeah, this is him. Okay. Um, a wellness check? Really? Why? Has it has it been that long for real? No. Let me check. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's been a while. Okay, fair. But yeah, no, I'm not dead. I'm okay. I'm doing fine. I'm actually shooting a video right now. So thank you so much for your concern. Yes, I'll surely do that. Thank you so much. All right. Cheers. A wellness check? Really? Really? I get it. I get it. It's been way too long, okay? It's been way too long. I fully and utterly realize this, but I just want to come to my own defense here just a little bit. I shot a video, an entire video, months ago, and some way, somehow, it just gets corrupted once I put it into my editing software. So I cannot work on it, I cannot edit it at all, and that's why I'm gonna have to start over, realizing that so many more films have joined the collection since that last attempt at making a video. So we are going to be very thorough today. I'm going to talk about all of the regular Blu-rays, the 4K Blu-rays, and I'm going to talk about some Arrow video collections. And I'm going to talk about all the Steelbooks, 4K or otherwise, that have joined the family. So it's going to be a very busy period on my channel. You could call this kind of a wrap-up party like we've done before, but for my own sanity, I'm just gonna dive into the regular Blu-rays to start off with, get that video out, and then move on to what we need to go get to. But first and foremost, let's roll the goddamn intro, okay? It's been way too long since we've done this, so let's see if it still works. Roll the intro! Did it work? Okay, so, like I said, this is the pile of films we have to get to today. So I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly, and if I have anything to say about them, I will. Trust me, I will. However, not all of these I've seen, so some of these are gonna be fairly short in review. Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans, a semi-autobiographic film co-written by Steven Spielberg and directed by the man. It's a film by Steven Spielberg that I haven't seen. It got some Oscar buzz, even though, from what I can tell, it's kind of one of those films, right? One of those Oscar baity movies. But I get why that's a critique, and on the other hand, it still needs to be of some quality to be Oscar bait, okay? So The Fabelmans, I haven't seen it yet, but I now own it on Blu-ray, so we'll dive into it at some point. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, sequel to the surprising hit of Shazam, one of the last hurrahs of a failing DCEU. And this film is fine. It's like the most 5 to 6 out of 10 film you'll ever see. It's not offensive in any way. It's entertaining enough, but it doesn't do enough to be one of the greats. So it's just sitting there being Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The Machine, starring Bert Kreischer and Mark Hamill. It's an R-rated action comedy starring Bert Kreischer. It's a fictional version of an already fictional story told by a stand-up comedian that made him famous, and now it's a movie, and I've seen it, and it's pretty entertaining. Like, this is the perfect film to put on with some buddies in the room, and nobody has a shirt on for some reason, and you're drinking some beers, and it's a fun enough comedy, okay? It's one of those films that came out 15 years too late, okay? If this was in the early 2000s, this would be the hype among 16-year-olds who first discovered drinking, okay? It's It's fine. It's like the most fine film I've ever seen. It's pretty entertaining. I haven't regret watching it, and I haven't regret buying it. So there's that. Okay. Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. I started watching this film, but I haven't completed it. So it's a weird film. It's weird. You know, it's weird. Puss in Boots 2. I don't remember ever talking about this one because I have this one in my collection for some time, long enough that it has some wear and tear. Don't ever, ever borrow your Blu-rays to family, okay? Don't do it. It's not worth it, ever. But this film is pretty fantastic. It's one of the best animated films that has come out in recent years. And if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It's fantastic. La Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain. It's a film by Jean-Pierre Jeunet. It's one of the most iconic French films of all time. It's one of the most iconic films of all time. It's timeless. It's a classic. What you may or may not know is that Jean-Pierre Jeunet, the director of this film, went on to direct Alien Resurrection. Yes. Michael Mann collaborated with Adam Driver, Penelope Cruz, and Shailene Woodley to create Ferrari. The only reason why I picked this up is because it's Michael Mann, it's Adam Driver, and I was a big, big fan, still am, of Ford vs. Ferrari, which came out a couple of years ago. And I'm hoping that this will capture some of that same essence in terms of the car sequences, in terms of the time era. I'm really interested in seeing this one. A random man in a bar I was at came out of one of the showings of this film, and he said it was great, so yeah, I'm actually really excited. This is a slipcover also, which has already some wear and tear. That's how I bought it, but you know, for like $10, it's fine. And Adam Driver is always a win. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I have watched this film last week and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's pretty good. It's like a fun adventure action with some comedic elements and a pretty solid story. I have no affiliation with Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played one of those games, the board game, the role-playing game, or one of the video games. So I have I have no horse in this race. I'm coming into this world as a newbie, as a ignorant green bee, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the film. It's pretty solid. Not all of the performances are as solid as you want them to be, but it is what it is. It's a fun action adventure comedy, and the world building I thoroughly enjoyed. So Dungeons and Dragons, surprisingly fun watch. Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan. Saw this film in theaters with my best friend who fell asleep before the film was over. It's the most dad film you'll ever see. It's fantastic, but it's like one of those films, if you've seen it once, the urge to rewatch it ever kind of diminishes immediately because it is such a long film to get through, and the editing, and especially in the first half hour, is so breakneck pace. It's edited like a movie trailer, and the score is doing such heavy lifting to glue all of these sequences together to really sell the idea that this is actually purposefully edited in this way. There's not a grain of fat on this film. Either that's going to annoy you, or you're going to appreciate the editing, the writing, and the pacing of this film, because Nolan does cram in a lot of film, a lot of story in 3 hours. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I bought this Blu-ray when it was priced down. Didn't go for a 4K steelbook or anything like that, even though Nolan steelbooks are always fantastic. But I'm happy with the slipcover Blu-ray with bonus feature disc. So yeah, if you're like a fan of the time period, if you're a fan of Cillian Murphy or Robert Downey Jr., I definitely would recommend watching this. But if you're not a fan of dialogue-heavy sequences, a lot of talking in a classroom, even with a whiteboard, and a lot of talking about what you want to do, and discussing physics and all that stuff, and this is not a film for you, okay? But I would recommend, if you're a fan of any of these actors, if you're a fan of Nolan, you should definitely seek this one out and watch it once. It's legitimately fantastic. It deserved a lot of the praise that it got, but it's one of those films that you really have to be in the mood for to rewatch ever again. Like, I bought this one on Blu-ray and I haven't watched it ever since theater, so maybe that says something. Up next, one of the greatest horror films ever made. This is not me being hyperbole. This is legitimately what I believe. Talk to Me is one of the best horror films ever made, certainly in the top 3 of this century. It's legitimately one of the greatest horror films I've ever seen. It terrified me to my core. It's absolutely wonderful. The setup for this film is so unique. It has its own set of rules. It's directed by 2 YouTubers, Danny and Michael Philippou. Definitely check them out. They went on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is a hilarious episode because they're very much who they are. And I think Joe Rogan was like, what the hell am I doing here with these 2 coked out of their minds brains in front of me? They can't, like, it's insane. It's insanity. It's one of my favorite podcasts he's ever done. It's legitimately fantastic seeing these 2 guys being overly passionate and overly ADHD in front of this 50-year-old ice bath taking martial artist who, it's like, what the hell am I doing here? But talk to me. If you've never seen the film, if you're a fan of horror, please pick this one up on Blu-ray. It's definitely a must own. If you're a horror fan, it's a must own. I want to see more of these guys. I want to see more of this world. And it's legitimately a terrifying film. And one of my favorite parts of the film are the performances. There is not a single bad performance in this entire film. And the fact that these 2 guys will come from YouTube, right, which is already a kind of frowned upon medium, okay? Name me one good YouTuber film. Well, this one is now a great one, okay? It's like all these performances are solid, and for first-time directors to get these kind of performances out of young actors like this, with great writing and like a thrilling conclusion, it's legitimately fucking phenomenal. Okay, I'm gushing over this film, and I'm gonna keep gushing over it because I really genuinely want you to take out your wallet and buy this film right now. It's that good. Okay, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is a mixed bag. It's like with the first one, the original Black Panther, I felt to be underwhelming, and with this film I feel the same. What an impossible task to follow that film up with a sequel. It's a daunting task. I feel no envy at all for anyone involved with the making of this film. Making a sequel while your star actor sadly passed away after such a tragic battle with cancer, and like, what do you do in that scenario? Like, you have a $1 billion entity, that of Black Panther. Your star actor passes away. People are clamoring for a sequel and want to see more of this world in particular and this character. How do you follow that up? And everything regarding the passing of Chadwick Boseman and that character in the world, I think, is done wonderfully. Like, the opening sequence is seared into my brain. It's legitimately a fantastic opening. It takes one of the elements that I hated about Black Panther, the film, right? The idea that the superpower comes from this flower, which I always thought it's stupid. Like, why, dude? It doesn't need to be that convoluted. But that ironically leads into my favorite part of Wakanda Forever, is the fact that Shuri in the beginning of the film is using this plan and desperately clamoring to get a cure, to find a cure, and it just not working, and it just doesn't get there, and it's all effort that just goes to waste. And that's ironic because, like, it's the part of the Black Panther story I like the least, and that leads into my favorite part of Wakanda Forever. But Wakanda Forever in general is such a mixed bag for me. I am not a fan of this film when it comes to the villain. Like, the villain, like, okay, I can respect the balls that it takes to be like, okay, this is the character, how he is in the comics, and we're gonna just portray him stylistically and visually as he was, like with the little flappy wings on his ankles, okay? And it looks ridiculous. It looks so stupid, okay? But I can respect it because you're like, you know what? We're unapologetically following the comics on this. So we're gonna have a villain with like little flappy wings on his ankles, even though it looks ridiculous. But that would be fine if that's the tone they were going for the rest of the film. But no, this villain has like this backstory, and it has like this connection to Shuri, and then he attacks Wakanda, and it's like this very violent and intimidating sequence. But I cannot, for the life of me, ever take this scene serious because of those little flappy wings. And this world, right? The underwater worlds, I cannot take this serious at all. It raises so many more questions than it answers. Like, where were they when half of the population of the universe was snapped out of existence? Why didn't they like, oh, maybe something is going on up here. Maybe we'll go check it out. Maybe we'll make our presence known, right? Even Aquaman did this better. And also, when like they go down to that world for the first time and we see this marketplace at the bottom of the ocean, and it's like pitch black darkness, and it's like one of those scenes where you have to like, oh, you feel some appreciation for this culture, and you want to live in this world. Maybe that's how beautiful it is. And I'm just looking at it, and these underwater people like holding their breath clearly, right, in this dark environment because it's the bottom of the ocean. And I'm just like, this is not vibing with me at all. So yeah, well, I laughed out loud several times at the film when the film really didn't want me to, and that to me tells me everything I need to know about this film. It's a mixed bag, like the first one was. I love elements about it, and other elements just don't work for me, and that's super unfortunate because I love this world, I love this character. But if the story just doesn't work for me, like, I have to call that out. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it's part of the collection, but it's like, again, 5 to 6 out of 10. Black Adam. It's The Rock out of 10, which means your mileage may vary. The Super Mario Brothers film, it's okay. It's like, okay. I bought this on a sale. Didn't go see it in theaters. Never really was too invested in this franchise to begin with. I have fond memories of the Nintendo games, playing it with my cousin, and I liked the characters well enough. And I was excited to see the film, and it was kind of like a viral thing with Jack Black and peaches, right? But who talks about this film now? That's exactly my point. I think the biggest detriment to the film is that Nintendo collaborated with Illumination. Can you imagine what Pixar could have done with this entity?
I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's a film, a very specific film. It's about the Demeter, a ship that is transferring or transporting a very particular package to London. Yes. From Transylvania to London, and it's Dracula. This entire film is based on one chapter of the Dracula story, that of The Voyage of the Demeter, the last one. Not the first one, the last one. And yeah, this film is pretty good, okay? It's like a 7 out of 10 film. If you want to put on a film during a Halloween marathon, right, as like the last film, right, when everybody is kind of tired and maybe a little bit drunk, and the pizza has settled down, right? You want to put on one more film for those diehards, you put on The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's very atmospheric. It has some great sequences in there. It's not perfect, okay? The budget shows at times. But I thoroughly enjoyed it for what it is, okay? And it bombed at the box office. Surprise, surprise. But I think it should get a second life through physical media, okay? I liked it well enough. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. It's mediocre as hell. Super disappointing. I wanted so much more from this film than I got. Kang the Conqueror, his first appearance, is a mixed bag. Like, the CGI is terrible at times. The writing is contrived. It has some highlights, it has some very low points, and what you end up is like a 6 to 7 if you're being generous out of 10. This film should have been so much better than it is to get us hyped for Kang the Conqueror, and it did the opposite. Insidious, The Red Door. I love this Insidious franchise. It's directed by Patrick Wilson, his directorial debut, and it's a return to the original family of the first 2 Insidious films. I haven't seen it yet, but it's part of the collection. The Flash, the final nail in the coffin of the DCEU. I enjoyed this film. It's pretty fun, okay? But it's also very much so a terrible film. The CGI in this movie is comically bad. It's insultingly bad. The fact that they put this in theaters with that much fanfare and they build this film up to an extent that you're like, okay, relax, right? Relax. You're gonna hurt your neck blowing yourself like this, okay? Relax with the Rotten Tomatoes score and Tom Cruise calling Machete, right? Relax. We are not buying it, okay? I bought this pretty cheap. I watched it, and it's the most like it's pretty good when it is pretty good, but that CGI, man, holy shit. They shit the bed on this one. But it's like, it's good when it's so good that it's good at times, and when it's not, it's so bad that it's good. So what I'm at end up with is a pretty entertaining film. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't recommend it if you want to watch a great superhero film. This is not that, okay? This is pretty terrible. But watch this after you rewatch the Batman and Batman Returns. That's what I did. And I think that's what aided in my enjoyment of the film. Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster, one of my favorite directors working today, starring one of my favorite actors working today, that of Joaquin Phoenix. It's a film I haven't seen before. I have yet to watch it, but I'm a fan of both of these creative talents, that of Joaquin Phoenix and Ari Aster. And Hereditary is one of my favorite films of all time, so I'm looking forward to this film, even though from what I hear, it got some mixed reception. It's fine, okay? I'm gonna find things to enjoy in there because both of these gentlemen are masters at their craft. So I'm not even worried about it. We're gonna dive into some 4K Blu-rays just to round up this episode and do this well, okay? But we're gonna just dive through these pretty quickly. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. It's okay. It's one of the better Transformers films, which is not saying a lot, but I would put this up there with, let's say, Transformers 3. It's a more, obviously, competently written film than that, but it's messy at times. But I thoroughly enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed some of the action sequences. It's the pacing is a little bit over the place, and that's the biggest issue I have with the film. But yeah, it's okay. If you're a fan of Transformers and you want to kind of return to form, watch Bumblebee. And if you want to see more after that, then you can pick this one up. Moon is awesome. Sam Rockwell is awesome. Duncan Jones directed this film, who went on to direct the Warcraft film. But this film is like awesome. I love this movie so much. It has one of my favorite performances by Sam Rockwell ever in this movie. If you don't know anything about this film, please just don't look anything up. Go in blind and trust me on this, okay? It's fantastic. It's one of the best sci-fi films I've seen in years. It's fantastic. Up next we have Thor Ragnarok, but this is the Blu-ray slip, but underneath it's a 4K. I picked this up because the Blu-ray was $10, and so I put the slipcover on the 4K, and I paid $10 for 4K. The only reason I have this is because, yeah, I paid $10 for a 4K, which is always good to bargain with at any Blu-ray shop. And I like the slipcover, so I might keep it around. I have already too many copies of Thor Ragnarok, which we'll get to in another episode of Blureel Studios. I'm not even done yet. Alien, the 40th anniversary 4K Blu-ray. There's a beautiful steelbook for this edition as well, but I picked up this one because it was really cheap, and I didn't own this film on 4K yet, and it's one of my favorite films of all time. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, the 4K. Saw this one in theaters. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great. It deserves so much more success than it has received. And Dead Reckoning Part 2 is now in production, and that film is coming across a lot of issues right now. The budget is blooming because of an incident with the submarine that they were shooting with. It sank to the bottom of the ocean, or whatever water they were filming at, and so that budget is going to bloom even more, and it's going to need even more money to be profitable. And that's unfortunate because this film wasn't the success that it needed to be. Even though it made hundreds of millions of dollars, it wasn't really the success that they wanted it to be. But it's fantastic, and if I can use this platform to urge you to pick it up, it's fantastic. You're not gonna be bored at all. It's a wonderful action film. And so, okay, I'm coming up on the 30-minute mark. I'm gonna end the episode right here. I'm gonna go into the editing bay, start editing this video, and then I'm gonna jump into the 4K steelbooks, the regular steelbooks, and all that good stuff. There are quite a few of them, and so I'm kind of arguing with myself if I'm gonna include the Arrow video collections or not. I might do a separate video on that. There are 3 of them which I have to get to. So either way, thank you so much for watching this episode of Blureel Studios. You guys have been amazing. Thank you for the support. And if you want to watch some No Man's Sky gameplay, there are several live VODs you can watch on my channel right now, including the entire Adrift expedition from start to finish. It's a 6-hour watch, and it has been an adventure. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next episode of Blureel Series. You guys are awesome, and ciao. Please, do a homie a favor, okay? Don't fuck this up. I just wanna put out a video, okay? I just wanna put out a video. I just wanna put these in the shelf, okay? They've been lying on this exact little stool for months now, and I just wanna put them in the shelf, okay? Please. Thanks so much for watching.